It was right after dinner at my parents' house. We were still at the table when my boss, Steve, who also happened to be my dad's old fishing buddy, pulled out an envelope and slid it across to me. "Your folks asked me to drop this off," he said casual, like he was handing me a receipt for spark plugs. I opened it. Inside was a printed invoice. Rent $1,500 a month. Includes utilities, food, water, and household support, it said at the bottom. Like I was a damn tenant in my own family's backyard. I stared at the paper. $1,500. I made maybe a little over $3,000 a month between the shop and my weekend janitor job. This wasn't rent, this was a cash grab. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Jason, my younger brother, didn't even look up from the couch. He was sprawled out like a king, PS5 controller in hand, half a pizza box balanced on his stomach. I turned to Mom. "Is this a joke?" She didn't flinch. "You're nearly 30. You've got a reliable trade." Jason's still figuring things out. Figuring what out? I asked. He's been figuring for 6 years. He's taking a drone mapping class, she said, like that explained it all. He needs time. Meanwhile, you've got steady income. Dad chimed in from the head of the table, not even looking at me. Fair is fair. I looked back down at the invoice. The font was Times New Roman. My own name was in bold. It felt cold, official, like I was being evicted unless I signed my soul over. I folded the paper in half, stood up, and tucked it into my jacket. "You don't have anything to say?" Mom asked. I shook my head. "Nope." Jason snorted behind me, not even pausing his game. "Better get to work, rent's due," he muttered. I didn't look back. I walked out the front door, crossed the lawn, and unlocked the side gate to get back to the garage apartment behind the house. Inside it was freezing. I didn't turn the heat on. I didn't flip the lights. I just sat on the edge of the bed, invoice still in my hand, $1,500 a month, for being the responsible one. I grabbed my laptop off the floor and opened a blank spreadsheet. The space heater buzzed uselessly in the corner, but I didn't turn it up. My breath fogged a little as I sat at the fold-out table, cracked my knuckles and started typing. Row 1, rent $1,500. Row 2, groceries $312. Row 3, utilities $146. Row 4, miscellaneous household items $38. Row 5, Jason Amazon. That one stung. I clicked over to my Amazon account and opened the purchase history. 2 days ago, Nike Dunks $139. Last week, gaming chair $204. The week before, protein powder, car wax, Xbox controller. I hadn't bought a damn thing. I opened another tab. My credit card was almost maxed. I checked the delivery addresses. All of it went to the main house. I sat back, jaw clenched, then stood up and walked across the lawn in the dark. Jason was still on the couch, hoodie up, headset on, yelling into a mic about some multiplayer kill streak. I walked in without knocking. He didn't even glance at me. I stood in front of the TV. "Yo," he said, pulling his headset down. "What? You used my Amazon account." He shrugged. "You never changed the password. That's not a license to rack up hundreds of dollars in crap." "It's stuff I need," he said. "I'm starting a content channel, streaming setup, gym gear. It's not like I'm just wasting it." "Then use your own money." "I don't have a job, man," he said, like that was some sort of argument. I just looked at him. He looked away first. "You gonna pay me back?" I asked. "Eventually. Chill. We're family." I left before I said something worse. Next morning I brought it up with Mom. She was folding laundry in the kitchen like nothing was wrong. She didn't even look surprised. "I know he used it," she said, like we were discussing a library book. "He said he'd pay you back." "I didn't give him permission." She sighed. "You're not being a team player. Jason just needs a little help. He's trying. He's 26 and hasn't worked in 3 years. He's sensitive," she said, softer now. "It's hard for him to find the right thing." I stared at her. "And what am I? A bank?" "You're the one with stability," she said. "You've got a trade. You'll be fine." I didn't argue. I just walked out and went back to the garage. That night I color-coded every charge. Red for rent, yellow for food, green for utilities I paid, purple for household stuff, detergent, dish soap, shampoo. All the things Jason used but never bought. And then I made a new color, orange. Orange was theft, Amazon orders, mystery charges on the shared Wi-Fi bill, borrowed gas money that never came back. By midnight, the spreadsheet had 46 lines. Every time I felt rage crawl up my throat, I just kept typing. Thursday, February 3rd, Amazon, $87, Jason headphones. Sunday, February 6th, groceries, $59 paid by me, both houses 8. Tuesday, February 8th, electric bill auto debit, $126, full amount mine. I started logging things in real time. Every receipt went in a folder. Every charge got its row. I checked it like clockwork, morning, lunch, after work. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a little more in control. It wasn't justice. Not yet, but the data kept me sane. I was sitting in the break room at the shop, hunched over my laptop again, scrolling through the spreadsheet. I just flagged another line: Wi-Fi charge, $17.49, unauthorized Netflix add-on. Jason didn't even watch Netflix. He just liked clicking buttons. Across the table, Brandon unwrapped a sandwich and squinted at my screen. You doing your taxes or hacking the Pentagon? Just tracking some expenses, I said, not looking up. You've had that thing open every day this week. What's going on? I hesitated. Then I tilted the screen toward him a little. My family's charging me rent, and my brother's been running up my Amazon. Brandon gave a low whistle. Damn, rent to your own parents? $1,500, I said. He blinked. You're living in their house? Garage apartment. You pay utilities? All of it, plus food, plus half the stuff in the main house. He leaned back. That's robbery. I shrugged. They say Jason's figuring stuff out, and I've got a trade. Brandon chewed on that for a second, then set his sandwich down. You got a second? We walked out to the front office. Brandon logged into the shop's computer and pulled up a folder labeled Loan Mods, Active Clients. He clicked through a few PDFs, then stopped on one with my parents' address. Thought I recognized the name when you said it. Your folks tried to refinance last year through our credit union partnership. Didn't go through. I scanned the document. Payment history spotty. Delinquencies multiple. Their last 3 months were marked red. They were underwater. Way underwater. They're almost 6 months behind, Brandon said, nodding at the screen. Guess your rent's their lifeline. I didn't speak. I couldn't. My stomach flipped. They weren't teaching me how to be responsible. They were plugging holes with my paycheck and covering Jason's laziness with my Amazon Prime. They say anything about this? Brandon asked. Nope. Figures. We went back to work, but I couldn't focus. All afternoon I kept seeing those red boxes. Delinquent. Overdue. Default. That night I didn't even take off my boots. I went straight to my laptop and started printing. Bank statements. Order histories. Text threads. My spreadsheet, copies of receipts from the grocery store, screenshots from my Amazon purchase log. I organized everything into folders on a flash drive and backed it up to the cloud. Then I backed it up again on a second drive I hid behind a loose board under the sink. I labeled the folders by month, sublabeled by category. February Jason charges, Amazon, Jan rent paid transfer proof, and of electric, paid by me only. By 2 in the morning my room looked like a tiny crime lab, pages stacked on the bed. The printer still humming, flash drives in rows like evidence bags. They wanted me to believe I owed them. They wanted to guilt me into paying off a mortgage they couldn't handle and covering for a brother who thought life was one long warm-up lap. Fine, I'd play along, but I'd keep my records, and I wouldn't forget. The next morning, I got to the shop early and waited for Miss Beaver's Dodge to rattle into the lot. She came in every other Wednesday like clockwork, usually for an oil change or a new rattle under the hood she couldn't name but could imitate perfectly. She stepped out, floral scarf flapping, keys already in hand. Morning, sweetie, she said. You look like a man with a secret. I didn't even fake a smile. Got a minute to talk? She tilted her head. Something wrong with the apartment? Worse, I said. I need to know how to buy property under a name that's not mine. She didn't blink, just adjusted her sunglasses and looked me over. You in trouble? Not with the law, I said. Just my family. She nodded once, slow. You want to protect something. I want out. We sat on the bench behind the shop while Brandon took her keys to the bay. I explained it short. Not the Amazon part, not Jason, just that I needed to move money and buy something without the name on my license getting dragged into it. Start with a clean name, she said, like she'd been waiting for the question. LLC. You keep it small, it's legal. Won't hide you from the IRS, but it'll keep your business your own. She reached into her purse, pulled out a notepad and started scribbling. You'll need a registered agent, but they sell those online. Pick a name that sounds boring. Corporate. Nothing flashy. I looked at her writing. It was all caps. Sharp and neat. Can I use a P.O. box for the address? For now, she said, but use it for everything. Bills, statements, bank account, the works. Keep your personal accounts out of it. That night, I drove to the UPS store and opened a box under the name Iron Timber Properties. Sounded neutral. Strong. like something that could belong to a lumber yard or a guy like me who knew how to swing a wrench. Next stop, the bank. I walked in, asked to open a business checking account, and slid my paperwork across the desk. The clerk didn't ask questions, just printed out the starter checks and handed me the debit card sleeve. I moved fast after that. I dumped my whole tax refund into the account, all $2,000 of it, plus my Christmas bonus from the shop. Every extra shift, every under-the-table oil change went straight into iron timber. The first week I rented a storage unit on the far side of town, out near the industrial park. Bare bones, no cameras, paid cash for the first month and kept the key in my glove box. Then I started moving things, not furniture, just boxes. One week it was my tools, the good ones, socket sets, drill bits, the torque wrench I got for my birthday 3 years ago. Next week I packed up winter clothes, framed photos I didn't want to leave behind, a stack of old sketchbooks I hadn't touched since high school. I timed it out, always when nobody was around. Jason was usually asleep or playing that stupid game. Mom was at some charity shift or yoga class. Dad barely even came home anymore. Each trip was a quiet victory. I didn't explain. I didn't leave notes. I didn't ask permission. They wanted a tenant? Fine. But tenants didn't owe loyalty. Every time I slid another box into the storage unit and locked it behind me, I felt one step closer to being free. Not just from the house, from them. A week later, I was in the shop's front office eating vending machine pretzels when Brandon spun his laptop around. "You still looking?" he asked. I leaned in. The screen showed a real estate listing, 3-bed, 1.5 bath, out past the sawmill near the old paper plant. Ugly yellow siding, no interior photos, lot full of patchy grass and oak leaves. "Seller's mid-divorce," Brandon said. "Needs fast cash. No showings, no inspections. Cash buyers only. How bad is it?" He shrugged. "Hard to tell. Price is 30 below market. Could be a mold pit. Could be a steal." I stared at the address. I knew the road, long, wooded, not much traffic. Looked like peace. "Iron Timber's got enough for earnest money and maybe half the closing," I said. "I'll figure out the rest." Brandon just nodded. "You want help writing the offer? I've got someone." Next morning, I met Miss Beavers at Barlow Diner off 219. She already had 2 coffees and a manila folder waiting. "Offer through the LLC," I told her. "Keep my name out of it." She grinned. "Didn't think you'd wait long." We filled out the forms between bites of toast. She wrote fast, like someone who'd done this 20 times and stopped caring about the mess behind every deal. "You understand, once you send this, you're committed," she said, signing the last page. "I'm already committed." That night I drove past the house. I didn't stop, just slowed down enough to catch a glimpse. No lights on. For sale sign already halfway knocked over. Mailbox missing a door. But the roof looked solid and the yard was wide. I could picture a workbench in the garage, maybe a grill out back. Silence all around. My chest thumped so hard I had to pull over. It wasn't fear. It was something sharper. Like I was finally standing in my own story instead of someone else's lie. I kept quiet about it. Back home everything looked the same. Jason still gaming, Mom still overwatering her plants, Dad still avoiding eye contact. Meanwhile, I kept loading boxes. One night, I took all my car manuals and maintenance logs, 15 pounds of paper. Next week, it was my bedding and kitchen gear I'd bought myself. The kind of stuff nobody would notice missing. I packed slow, careful, never more than 1 trip a week. If they noticed anything, they didn't say. And I didn't let myself picture the new house too much. Not yet. Didn't picture where the couch would go. Didn't picture a fridge stocked only with food I'd bought. Didn't picture silence without guilt tied to it. I just kept moving, 1 box at a time. Tuesday morning hit cold and dry. Sun wasn't even up yet. I didn't wait for it. I packed the last of my boxes into the back seat, laundry basket of rolled shirts, toolbox, a duffel bag full of chargers and cables. My mattress had already gone to storage. Only thing left inside the garage apartment was dust, and that thin blanket I'd been sleeping under since February. I walked through it one more time slow. Closet, empty. Cabinets, cleared. Laptop charger, already in the front seat. I locked the door behind me and walked up to the main house. Jason's car was gone, probably off at that drone mapping class he barely showed up to. Mom's SUV wasn't in the driveway. Her calendar said community pantry 9 a.m. in big pink letters. Of course, Dad, golf bag was missing from the porch rack. His way of disappearing without talking. Perfect. I let myself in. The house smelled like coffee and scented candles. Everything was so normal it made my stomach turn. I walked into the kitchen, grabbed a sticky note from the drawer, then changed my mind. This needed more weight. I opened my laptop on the dining room table and printed a single sheet of paper, taped it to the counter where everyone would see it. Effective today, I no longer live here. All services in my name will be canceled within 48 hours. No emotion, no explanation, just facts. I set the house key next to it, the one they gave me when I moved into the garage 3 years ago like I was some damn tenant. I walked out without looking back. In the car I turned off the radio, just sat with the quiet. Then I opened my contacts and started blocking numbers. Jason first, then Mom, then Dad, one by one. The silence hit harder than I expected, like taking off a jacket you didn't realize was soaked until it's gone. I drove straight to the diner. Miss Beavers was already waiting, coffee in hand, stack of papers beside her. She slid one across the table. Sales confirmed. You're officially a homeowner. I stared at it. Legal stamped notarized. Iron Timber Properties, full owner of one ugly little house near the sawmill. I nodded. Thanks. You okay? She asked. I thought I was. Then I walked outside and sat in my car, hands on the wheel, still, tight, then shaking. Not from cold, not from fear, just everything hitting all at once. I took a breath and looked out the windshield. I didn't know anybody anything now. It was real. Took exactly 1 week. I was replacing the busted lock on the back shed when I heard tires crunch on gravel. I peeked through the slats of the fence. White SUV. Mom's. I let out a slow breath, walked around front, and there they were, the whole trio. Mom in her Sunday blouse like she was headed to brunch. Jason hunched behind her, hands in his hoodie pocket, pretending he wasn't the reason half this started. Dad stayed in the car with the engine running. I opened the door just enough to lean against it. You bought the house? Mom asked, voice sweet like nothing happened. No, I said. Iron Timber Properties did. She smiled like we were playing some game. But that's you, isn't it? I didn't answer. Jason finally spoke up, voice low. You put the mortgage in your company's name? I kept my tone flat. You signed the paperwork, didn't you? Mom shifted her weight. This isn't how families treat each other. I raised an eyebrow. You mean like charging your kid rent while his brother freeloads? That was different, she said quickly. We needed help. We thought you'd understand. You didn't ask. You invoiced me. Jason snorted. Man, this is petty. You're seriously acting like some slumlord now? You're the one who taught me not to change passwords, I said, looking him dead in the eye. He shut up. I pulled a printed copy of the agreement from my mailbox bin, held it out. $1,500 a month, due on the 1st. Late fees after the 5th. All communication goes through the property email. Mom didn't take the paper. She just looked past me into the house like she could guilt trip her way through the drywall. I always knew you'd end up bitter, she said quietly. I'm not bitter, I said. I'm billing. Jason muttered. This is sick. Take it up with the owner, I said, and shut the door in their faces. I locked the deadbolt, closed the blinds, and walked back to the shed. Then I grabbed my binder and opened to the first tab. Interaction number 1, attempted guilt trip. Date Tuesday, 10:14 a.m. Duration, approximate 5 minutes. Tone manipulative. Response neutral firm. Outcome, left without escalation. I slipped the paper into the sleeve and clicked the binder shut. They could show up again. Didn't matter. The door locked from the inside now. They came back 3 days later. This time all 3 stepped out of the car. I didn't answer the door right away. I let them knock twice before opening it halfway. We need to talk, Dad said. His voice wasn't angry. It was careful, like a man trying not to trigger a landmine. Hang on. I grabbed the thick folder off my kitchen counter and stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. We stood on the porch. You want answers? I asked. Mom crossed her arms. We want to know what's really going on, Jason muttered. You can't just flip on your own family. I opened the folder. First page, rent ledger, March to July. Highlighted, every single transfer. Here's what I paid, I said. $1,500 a month, on time. No delays. Next page, grocery receipts. Gas bills, electric, water, trash. Everything I covered without complaint. I flipped again. Screenshots of Amazon orders, all shipped to the main house. Jason's name on the confirmation emails. He stepped back like I'd slapped him. You said nothing, Mom hissed. Why keep all this? To protect myself. I turned a few more pages. Text threads where I asked about the charges and got brushed off. Bank statements showing overdraft fees. Notes from our fake family meetings where I was always the only one expected to pitch in. Dad stayed quiet until I reached the last tab, the property deed. He took it out of my hands and read it twice. You actually bought it. I did, I said. Through iron timber. Clean purchase. Legal, recorded, notarized. He looked up. How? You taught me how money works, remember? I said. Budgeting. Responsibility. Ownership. I took notes. Jason scoffed. You think this makes you the good guy? No. I think it makes me the landlord. He went quiet again. I closed the folder, slid it back under my arm. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm enforcing terms. Mom's mouth tightened. We're your family, which is why I didn't evict you outright. Dad handed the folder back. His hand was shaking a little. What now? He asked. I pointed to the edge of the paper. All communication goes through the property email. No texts. No drop-ins. Your tenants. Keep it professional. Nobody spoke after that. I stepped back inside and shut the door. No yelling. No crying. Just the sound of gravel under their tires as they pulled away. 6 months later I could finally breathe. The house still creaked in weird places. Half the outlets hummed, and the guest toilet didn't flush right, but none of it bothered me. I fixed what I could, added what I wanted, and lived with the rest. It was mine. I built 2 new shelves in the garage, one for power tools, one for parts. Finally had room to spread out. No more digging through crates in the cold or sharing space with Jason's busted bike or Mom's donation overflow. I kept everything labeled, tight, simple. Saturday mornings I drank my coffee on the back steps, even in the cold. Just stared out at the half-dead yard and thought about what I'd plant come spring. Probably nothing fancy, just something green that didn't depend on anyone else to grow. Inside, the walls stayed quiet. No lectures, no guilt-tripping over dinner. No sideways glances when I bought the wrong brand of toilet paper or forgot to take the trash out on their imaginary schedule. I hadn't painted in years, didn't even know I missed it, but one night I found my old set of brushes buried in the bottom of a box labeled junk, keep anyway, and that was it. I bought a cheap pack of acrylics, thumbtacked a blank canvas to the drywall, and started throwing color around. Not for anyone else, not to prove anything, just to do it. Midway through my second canvas, something rough and blue and jagged, my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number at first. Then I saw the preview. Dad, Jason's working now. Thanks for the help. I stared at it for a second, then went right back to painting. No reply. No anger. Just peace. I didn't block the number. Didn't delete it either. I just let the message sit there while the paint dried. That afternoon I opened my laptop, pulled up the spreadsheet, and typed one final note under the mortgage tab. Status, current. No red cells. No pending notices. No warnings. Just green. I closed the file, leaned back, and let the silence settle in. Not the kind of silence you get when people are giving you the cold shoulder, the good kind. Full. Heavy in the best way. Outside, the backyard was covered in dry leaves. Oak and ash mostly. I grabbed a rake, changed my mind, and just walked through instead, kicking a path across the lawn. Felt good to move without purpose. Miss Beavers pulled up just as I made it back to the steps. Same rattling dodge, same lipstick that always missed the corner of her mouth by half an inch. She climbed out with a folder in hand and waved it like a baton. This one's yours if you want it, she said. 2-bedroom foreclosure off Route 9. They're looking for someone to manage it until probate clears. I took the folder and flipped through. Why me? She gave me a look like I already knew. You've got a head for this, she said. Clean, patient, organized. Not afraid to keep receipts. That's half the battle. I nodded, not saying yes, not saying no. Just absorbing it. Think it over, she said, tapping the folder before heading back to her truck. I stood there for a second, watching the dust settle behind her as she pulled away. Then I walked back inside, the door creaking just the way I liked it. No frame degrees on the walls. No fancy art. Just shelves I built with my own hands and that blue painting I decided not to fix. My name still wasn't on the mailbox. Didn't need to be. Everything that mattered, every square inch, every second of quiet was mine. Not just the house, the whole damn life.